To wrap this all up, let's have a look at what we've done here. In the blended morph-based system, we've created a character that has enough controls to be able to handle some basic expressions. This system still needs a lot of work to be able to make it production ready, to be able to add some of the nuances that we need to be able to get speech, like F, and of course a tongue has been rigged up as well. This could be added in as morph targets and either driven right in the same morph targets and driven with specific sliders, or on a whole separate set of sliders just to control the tongue. This system works quite well, but of course being morph targets, it still has to rely on the speed of morphing and can become slow depending on the size of the mesh and density of the mesh. There isn't much you can do to actually speed that up. Other ways you could try and connect this is not using Reaction Manager and using wires or the expression editor instead, because Reaction Manager tends to be a bit slower in responses. And so with the addition of morphing and Reaction Manager, the speed of this isn't as fast as you might want it to be. On the bone-based system, we have a relatively complete face. One of the things we might want to do is do a little bit more skinning, a little bit more tweaking to try and lock down areas like the corners of the eye. I've done some of it, but it basically means just going around and skinning to certain areas. I'm also losing some volume in areas like the jaw during certain poses. You can see that the back of the jaw actually tends to collapse a little bit, and that might be just due to placements of some of the joints in the jaw area. That's just a matter of tweaking and playing with your rig to try and get it to work the way that you expect. Every rig like this takes playing around and trying to get it right, testing different ideas and moving the joints around, or testing the weighting of it to try and get it all to work correctly. What we've got works quite well and has quite an enormous range of motion. Pin attribute holder as well could be used to be able to store the poses just like it was on the morph-based system. What we'd do here is we'd have to store a lot of tracks, basically the XYZ positions of every single control object, plus some of the rotations on, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the objects around the mouth are utilizing rotations as well. So we'd have to store those. What I would suggest is it is done in an actually 2-layer system, that the top layer controls, the ones that have the wide scope control, be put on one layer, and then the other be the smaller ones be put on another layer, and then one over the entire thing. And you could actually store several pin attribute holders on each of the objects, so 3 of each, so you could actually have a global control and then a control over the individual layers so that each weren't moving. As well as a tongue needs to be set up here that I didn't get into, and a tongue for this sort of setup might be best with the same sorts of control objects, so that the tongue can be manipulated with a chain of bones, really set up exactly the same way, a stretchy bone system down the length of the tongue with the same sorts of controls along it that you could grab and pull and stretch and twist the tongue. So really it's no different than setting up the rest of this than to set up the tongue and get into the take it further. Other areas that might want to be dealt with on both rigs are ear movements, and to be able to have some ear flex so that you can actually wiggle the ears a bit, especially on a character like this, should have lots of expression. I hope you enjoyed the DVD, and there are some extras that will outline some of the differences in Max 8 and some of the new tools that will actually make doing some of this easier in Max 8 than it is in Max 7.